Hi, it's Wednesday, so I am back for Wedding Planning Wednesdays. And oh my God, I realized I just didn't even have my mic. Welcome to Wedding Planning Wednesdays. I'm trying something new with just the environment. I honestly, this week has been a tough one. I don't know about you all, but just physically, mentally, I just felt really, really drained. And so I was like, you know what? I just want to be comfy on my couch. And I always feel, I don't know, I just felt like holding the mic today. So I'm hoping the sound is okay. But I hope you all are having an okay week. To be honest, having Wedding Planning Wednesdays on my calendar, even though typically not a lot of people join live, even though I would love to build it to that one day. Not a lot of people join live, but I do like showing up and having it on my calendar because it's just accountability for me to think about content, think about some kind of value that I can provide for you as you're planning your wedding. And so I like that it kind of brings me back around, even if I've had a really hard weekend or the past couple of weeks have been hard. It's always a time for me to kind of get regrounded and refocused. So I'm grateful for you to be joining me today. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Jane Yu. I am the co-founder and lead planner at UNS Events. I own the company with my husband, John. We plan, design, and DJ weddings that, are personalized and where you can show up as unapologetically yourselves and tell your love story in the way that you want to tell it. And I love just helping my couples plan and design their wedding from beginning to end, with as little stress as possible and enjoy the process as much as possible. If you're just getting started, I do have a wedding planning checklist that you can download. It will be linked in the description below. It's a PDF guide that's a pretty top line guide of what you need to be doing every few months in different phases, and it's meant to get you kick-started or jump-started. So hopefully that helps if you do choose to download it. I like to start the sessions with things that are not even really wedding planning related at all. So today I'm going to talk about just taking a day of rest when you really need it. I think it's so easy when life is moving so quickly and there's just so much to do, whether you're a business owner or not. And I think for me, the business definitely ebbs and flows a lot, especially when we have events going on. And so sometimes you just really need to listen to your body, to your mind. And I feel like this was the week we really kind of had to do that. I do work out. So there's a cycle with working out, and just sometimes physically, I just get really tired. And so yesterday, it was a Tuesday, but I got up and I just could not actually feel like functioning. And so I was able to just take the day, or at least a few hours, call it early after I kind of did what I needed to do and just really relaxed, didn't check my phone, which was really nice. And sometimes you just really, really, really need to do that for yourself. And that way you can come back stronger, less burned out, and all of the things. So today it was still very tiring, but I did make it to the gym, baby steps, and just going through the motions is just what we really have to do. And I'm wondering where you are right now, if you are planning your wedding, where you are in the journey. If you're watching the replay, would love to know in the comments like where you are in the journey, what you might be feeling stuck with, because it's end of March now, and so we're heading into the summer season, like spring summer season. And then you, of course, have the fall, which is usually the busiest season for me, and of course is a very popular month for weddings. And I was just wondering where everyone's at, because if you did start planning last year for your 2026 wedding, then you might have booked a lot of your vendors, but now it's time to start picking up all of the details, the home stretch, etc. So you might have had a little bit of a break after contracting all these vendors, and now you're feeling a little bit of the pressure again. And so I know how that feels, because when it comes to doing events, there's always like these different phases, and there's different pressure points at different phases. So we'd love to know in the comments, like how you're feeling and what you might be feeling stuck with, or if you're just really excited to get going again. And it's also a great time right now to reflect and look back and look forward as well, because it's the end of Q1 or first quarter, as a lot of just people in business or in general like to view the calendar year. And so the first 3 months of the year are over, and typically it's, a busy season for me as well. But this year it was a little bit different. I only had one event this first quarter, but it did keep me quite busy. And I was also working with John to support him with his events. And, I really did also find time for creativity. So, really putting time into my YouTube lives, into content, trying to connect with people over social media, on threads, like seeing what people are talking about on Reddit. And because of the event, which happened a couple of weeks ago, it threw me a little bit off course. And sometimes I get, a little bit, I don't know what the word is. I'm not upset because I know it's coming, but a little bit sad that I don't get to work on the things that really make me happy, which is, being creative and sharing content and all of that with you. And so I have to learn, or I'm learning, to just get back on it a little bit more quickly and to get back on track a little bit more quickly, which is, again, why I love these Wednesdays, connecting with you and hopefully helping you a little bit throughout your wedding planning journey. So after this kind of last month of some work travel, of working on events, just trying to get back into the rhythm of things, I really try to set myself up for success for planning for future events and weddings for my clients, and also keeping on track with my business. And I can feel myself getting sucked into things that I don't want to be wasting time on, but it's because I kind of lost the rhythm, like the good rhythm that I was on. And so I'm bringing this up because you might be feeling the same way if your wedding planning was off to a really great start and then you had to take a little bit of a break, and then now you're getting back into it and feeling a little bit frazzled. And that is totally okay, because that's going to happen, and it all is about taking the phases one phase at a time, right? For me, I can definitely see myself getting sucked into just like doom scrolling on social media, the need to see engagement like on my posts that I post, and a little bit of like imposter syndrome as well, because I think I've been making progress with what I want to do and also booking clients and all of those things. But of course, as a new like small business owner who is still building her business, it's bound to happen where I just don't feel as confident sometimes. I'm fully confident in my ability to plan a wedding or event and always being able to figure that out, like that for sure. But I think I'm more talking about building the business into a place that's very sustainable, that is going to keep growing, but also while maintaining, like the life that I want to live, which is being able to spend time with family and friends, like making time for things that matter. And on that note, like just understanding what things matter to you when it comes to not just life, but also your wedding. I've, been reading a lot about what people are talking about or what they're concerned about. And to be honest, like to be a little bit real today, I am a little bit tired of seeing people complain, like not just couples, but also vendors complaining about couples and couples complaining about vendors. And look, I get it. We're all human. But at the same time, I think there's a fine line between complaining and also learning and educating. So learning from the side of the couple, researching in a way that is productive and efficient and is going to help you make informed decisions, but also for vendors, not like having some empathy for the people who do complain about certain things like pricing, because I totally get it. And those are things that are a little bit outside of our control, right? And it's a little bit frustrating because there's some disparity of what you see on like Instagram or like Vogue weddings and brides, and then your wedding and then people are saying like, oh, the average cost of a wedding is $30,000 or $39,000 or whatever it is, which is so like, that's a conversation for another time, I think. But I do understand the frustration of just what people see online versus reality and like what things really cost and all of that. And I think I wanted to just talk about how to harness these feelings and control it, and also use it to your advantage. And this is a lot of how I deal just with things, I think, in life, and it applies when it comes to your wedding planning. And I think the biggest thing is when you're dealing with people, which you're going to do a lot of while planning your wedding, is you can't really control what anyone else does, right? Like you can't control how vendors do their pricing. You can't really control what things cost. And with that mentality, my perspective, or what I encourage you to do, is to really educate yourself and do the research so that you can make the decisions that are going to be best for you. And that doesn't mean just Googling a bunch of things or ChatGPT even. I think it's literally doing the work of reaching out to vendors that you want to work with, seeing what the pricing is, seeing what the patterns are, making sure you do quality control as well, because you don't want to just go with the vendor just because they're the cheapest and then they end up not being that great. So I think there's definitely a balance to be struck there. And then also talking to other people who might have gotten married already within your circle, just asking them about their experience. I think that really helps a lot. Also, there's tons of forums that I always talk about online. There's Reddit, a little overwhelming. But depending on your goals, could be really helpful if you want to do a deep dive. I don't love just like those open-ended questions on threads. That can get very overwhelming as well. But I think it's good to just check out what people are talking about. If you want more targeted questions, you can always maybe do discovery calls with planners or whatever who do offer complimentary consults, as I do. On my discovery call, it kind of doubles as a complimentary like 30-minute consult where I just give you some tidbits based on what you're sharing with me. Or you can also pay for consultation as well. Planners definitely offer that. And you can get a lot out of asking questions over the period of 60 to 90 minutes or whatever people offer. So I think educating yourself is really important, but in the right way, not just getting a bunch of quotes and then seeing who's less expensive and all that, but you also have to see what everything includes. So you want to take the time to really, really do that. And again, I think it's really important to feel good about who's involved in your wedding day. And so taking the time to really talk to people, that really will go a long way. So outside of educating yourself, setting your main priorities with your partner, and then always circling back to what those priorities are. So for example, if you're in the beginning stages of wedding planning right now, you might set your priority as like, hey, I don't want it to get to a guest count past this because I want it to feel really intimate. So maybe you want to keep it under 75 guests. That is your main priority for one. And then you also just want it to feel really warm and inviting and more communal. And so let that guide you with all of your planning. And sometimes it's going to be really hard to remember that priority when you're working through budget, it's not going the way you want. There's going to be family that weighs in. Your parents want something else. They want to invite 50 more family members, whatever it may be. So I encourage you to, at every kind of checkpoint, or every time you like check big things off your list, to just circle back to that. And it's okay, by the way, for your priorities to shift or adjust, because that's going to happen. But just remember to communicate to your partner about it. And if you're kind of in the middle of planning, I feel like you might be thinking, oh my gosh, my budget is already over. I'm overextended. And, there are ways that you can kind of control that. So I think setting that priority, those priorities, there might be more than one for sure for some people or for many people, is going to be really important, but also to always circle back to that. Not just in the beginning, but beginning, middles, bunch of middle stuff, and also toward the end. And that way, I feel like you'll feel a lot more in control. And even if things have to kind of shift or adjust, it's okay because you are being guided by whatever you set as your North Star at that point. And then the last thing is, I touched upon this a little bit, but just think about what's in your control versus what's not in your control. So I think things that are within your control are conversations that you choose to have with your family and your wedding party, maybe even, and your partner. That communication, you can choose to have an open line of communication. You can't choose how people are going to respond or what people are going to say. Like I saw this post about someone, like it can be as little as someone said their dress code is formal attire because they're doing it at a museum. It's going to be really nice. And there were guests that reached out to the couple and said, do I really have to wear a suit? I don't have anything that's going to fit the dress code. And so if you're hearing it, that might trigger some of you. It's really annoying, especially if it's like family members or whatever, whoever it is. It's really annoying to have to hear anything negative about your wedding when it's already such a stressful to do. So I get it. But I responded to that person and I was like, hey, because they were wondering how they should respond. And I was like, you don't even have to respond, to be honest, because depending on how they reached out to them, honestly, I would just be like, that's the dress code and that's the dress code. And you can't control how they show up. I've definitely seen people at semi-formal or formal attire weddings, of weddings for clients or whoever, and people show up in jeans, which I just don't understand. But at the same time, it is kind of a blip in the bigger scheme of things, and you can't let every little thing get to you, because if you do, then you're just not going to make it through. And so I think with everything that does happen, because it's going to happen, all these little things are going to happen, is you think about what you can control, and if you can truly control it, then do it. So budget, if you want to control it, then control the guest list. That is something you can control. If you feel like it's out of your control because of family or whatnot, then have the conversation. And you have to take these steps to get to the place where you want to be. And it's a very fine line, because you have your wedding party or not wedding party, your family and your wedding party too sometimes, and your partner. But then you also have your vendors. And there's a fine line of micromanaging and just being completely inflexible, and also protecting your peace and then protecting your happiness and the way you want to do things. So it is a little bit of a balance to strike. But I think with what I said in mind of just remembering what you can control versus what you cannot, letting go of certain things that you cannot control, I think is going to be incredibly freeing for you during the wedding planning process. So just to recap, I think educating yourself, doing the research, making informed decisions, setting priorities. Number 2, setting priorities and coming back to those priorities when things feel like they're going haywire. Just coming back to center. And then it's okay to shift. And then number 3, just remembering what you can control and what you can't control, and also letting go of certain things that are just out of your control, just to maintain a little bit of your sanity. And for those of you who do have a planner should really help alleviate the stress I've seen posts about people who are not happy with their planners and want to let go of their planners. And I think that's a fair situation. If you've tried, this person already had a conversation already once and it wasn't working. So if it's not working, it's not working. I do tell my clients, hey, if it's not working or a process isn't working, I always want to know, because I don't want them to be stewing in being upset and then end up resenting just the full process, because it can just really, what's the word? Really kind of make things go south really quickly, right? Things can go south really quickly if you don't resolve a small issue. And so I always encourage people to talk openly about all of that. And, if you have a planner, I would definitely lean on them for a lot of advice and to alleviate a lot of even navigating people, because as an experienced planner, I think that's a large part of the job, is being able to help your clients manage the stress and also managing people. So I hope that was helpful today. I know it was a little bit more of an abstract concept, not as much of a how-to, but I will be back next week with more content. And again, I'm really grateful for you being here. And please drop in the comments. I just really would love to hear from you all, just about what you're planning, what you might be going through, what you might be stuck with, what you might want to hear about on the lives. And I will see you next week. Have a great rest of the week and see you soon.